Thank you so much for coming back. I'm Jamila Ballard, and welcome back to Most Beautiful Inc. MBI, where you are the most beautiful girl in the whole wide world. Your most beautiful self, your most beautiful life, boo-boo. That's what we're about. That's what we're all about here. Okay, speaking of which, that means empowerment, of course. All things empowerment. I have a video for y'all today that fits into that. It's a reaction video, and so let's go ahead and just jump right into this because this one, oh my goodness, this one, wow, 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 wow. Wow. Okay.
Sabrina leave my house, leave my effing house. And she wouldn't leave. And so she came like she was going to rush back in again. So I ran to the kitchen and I grabbed this cup. It was a stakeout cup, a restaurant that they had in Greenville at the time. And grabbed the cup. It was a big, tall cup. And I added a little bleach and some hot water. The hot water in my sink was extremely hot. So in my head, I'm going to throw this hot water on her. Completely forgot, Tasha, that weeks prior, I had my garbage disposal was stopped up. So I bought Red Devil Eye in a canister, like Drano. Stakeout cup, and it couldn't have been that more of the Red Devil Eye Drano left in the original container. So I was cleaning and I poured the rest of that up in that cup and threw the container away, and I left it there on my countertop with the rest of my cleaning supplies. And like I said, I grabbed this cup, added the hot water to it, and put bleach in it. I don't know why I put the bleach in it, but I did. And went to the door. She was standing there, cursing him out. And when I opened the door, she cursing me out, and I threw it on her. And time I threw it on her, the way that she screamed, the way that she yelled, I knew I messed up. Because it wasn't your normal type of scream.
A dream, a fantasy for a man that could care less about, who I was or what I had to do when I got back to that house with the 4 children. And I went from the brutal attack on that day happening to me and literally being in a coma for a month, struggling to fight to get back to who I was as a mother, but not only that, getting addicted to the morphine in the hospital, so having to stay in there extra week or two to wean myself off of that. I never ever thought that would happen to me. I was in previous relationships prior to that, and I knew I was spiraling out of control because I attracted the wrong men over and over and over, and I just kept allowing men to come into my life, to come into my children's life. But with this particular person, I call it mashing the gas. He had the keys to my home, my cars, my life, all in a matter of a couple of weeks. So it was no coincidence that all the red flags were there and that something was going to happen. I just didn't know what. I had no idea that it was going to be this severe, that I would literally be a victim of 2 people plotting to say, that woman doesn't need to exist anymore. She doesn't need to live on this earth anymore. Who knew that would be their plan? When I think back, I could have been attracted to a dog. I was searching for love. I was broken. There was nothing about me that was whole. I was dancing at the strip club and I was just searching for love. Ironically, he came into the club sitting there and paid me no attention. So what intrigued me the most is that he didn't pay me any attention, but he had a game plan. He knew.
To Savannah. And I'm not saying it to say like I didn't grieve about the things that happened to Sabrina, because I never would have wished that on her. But at the same time, the things that led up until that point understood because I was there firsthand when people didn't. And I know for a fact that Savannah has always been dealt, if I could say, like the bad hand of situations when it comes to people fucking with her because she's a good woman. She has a beautiful spirit. She was an excellent mother. She was an excellent girlfriend. Actually, she was probably one of the best girlfriends I ever had in my life. You know, and I didn't deserve her, if it makes any sense.
Yeah.
You know, she took me from coming from a federal penitentiary to, you know, a life bed, into the streets, into things that at the time I didn't feel like I needed therapy for because she made life good and easy for me, and I say that with all honesty because the things she did for me, even from making sure I had a hot meal to clean clothes to sacrificing her job to make sure I had a job, I was on some bullshit.
First, when I watched the interview between Savannah Grant and Tasha K, my first impression of Savannah Grant was there was just humility about her. I know that what she did, if we judge people by their actions, which is what we usually do, you would just draw the conclusion she's a horrible person, okay? But quite frankly, this is something I always say to my husband. If you take any moment, any random moment out of somebody's life, out of context, and you don't know what led up to that, any one of us can look like a horrible person, quite frankly. Okay? So I saw past what happened. I just looked at her demeanor. I looked at the way she was talking, and the way she came across was just a really humble, very real and genuine person. Okay? And I know she did something horrible. She was the one, obviously, who threw the acid in the so-called side chick's face, right? Okay, first of all, let's look at the situation. And now and let me just mention too, I also watched the interview between, I think it was Tasha K and the male in this equation, okay? The man, the so-called boyfriend that was caught between the two women. He was caught between Savannah Grant, supposedly caught. He wasn't exactly caught, okay? He put himself there. And he admitted it. But between Savannah Grant and Sabrina, okay? Let's just say Savannah and Sabrina, okay? Savannah threw the acid. Sabrina is the one who eventually went blind. And so anyway, I listened to the interview. I listened to the man's side of the story, okay? Remember, this happened 20-something years ago. They were all a lot younger. One of them was or at least one of them was in her 20s, early 20s. The other one of the young ladies, I believe it was Sabrina, that was about 30 years old, okay, according to what they say. And so, first red flag would be that there's two girlfriends, right? Supposedly two girlfriends, okay? And by the way, I also listened to Sabrina's testimony, okay, where it was just her telling her story, okay? There probably was, I think there was an interviewer, but she was the only one on camera. And so you get 3 different versions, obviously. But the thing that struck me the most was that when the man, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, slips my mind right now. When he told his side of the story, I was surprised that he admitted wrongdoing. He said basically he was supposed to have left that situation alone, in reference to Sabrina, okay? He was supposed to have left it alone. And basically, he's painting the picture that he was with Savannah, that he and Savannah were in a relationship, and that, and he also states that he treated Savannah badly, and that Sabrina was the one that he was supposed to cut ties several times, and he never actually did. So now we fast forward, it's decades later, and the grown version of this man is saying, I was terrible. I was wrong the way I treated Savannah. Savannah was a beautiful woman. He said that her heart was beautiful. She was just a beautiful soul, that when he was in jail, she would come and visit him consistently, she and her mother. And that once he came home, she catered to him, she cared for him. She would go so far as to run his bath water, cook for him, everything. That she was really the ideal that a lot of men, I would say, look for, okay? In terms of how they want to be treated by a woman at home and in a relationship. So he's saying, okay, he's saying basically she didn't deserve the way she didn't deserve to be treated the way he treated her. And now when I listen to Sabrina's side of the story, I noticed that there are pieces that are missing, okay? I'm very sharp. I'm very observant. I've been that way since I was a child. But the pieces that were missing, Savannah wasn't missing those pieces. Her side of the story did answer those questions for me, and also the man's side of the story answered those questions for me. So it leads me to believe that Sabrina was purposely leaving some stuff out, okay? But like I said, I watched these interviews and I watched them more than once, okay? And I watched them carefully. It looks like Sabrina is leaving out the parts that would tell us what led up to her being at that woman's house in the first place. Okay? And the other two people involved did not leave out those parts. And the thing I found about human beings is that we tend to leave out the parts that where we feel some guilt, where some guilt could possibly be implied. And also we leave out the parts that are incriminating and don't present us in a good light. Clearly, they just present us in a bad light, so we conveniently leave those parts out. It looks to me, from everybody's different sides of the story, that Sabrina was the type of chick that was just like, listen, can't nobody say nothing to me. I'm a baddie. Whatever. I'm better than her. I'm going to have him. I'm proving something. It is absolutely giving type of female that shows her, okay? Absolutely. She was an exotic dancer at the time, and she looked like she was balling. From all accounts, she even mentioned that she had a brand new, and she randomly mentioned that she had a brand new Lexus, where it didn't even make sense to mention it, quite frankly, when she was telling the story, okay? About how she went over to the house to get her car, and the house that she went to was Savannah's house, and their so-called mutual boyfriend was there. Like I said, from the man's side of the story, Savannah was his girl. He loves Savannah. He's still in touch with Savannah, he mentioned. He's still in touch with her. He said he loves her. He said he does not feel obligated to stay in touch with her. He wants to be in touch with her. That she was one of the best girlfriends he ever had. And now, I wish he would have worded that differently. But he just paints her almost as a saint. Now, I don't think that because Savannah mixed up this poisonous solution that she's necessarily an evil person. Hear me out. Hear me out. Supposedly, this whole situation had been going on for some time, okay? And it looks to me, I don't remember exactly what Savannah said, but what she said something along the lines of like she was just tired of going through it and she was up to here. And like I said, it really looks like Sabrina was the type of girl where you couldn't tell her anything. She was going to show her no matter what, okay? And that's who she was. Like I said, she was an exotic dancer, and that does do some things to your ego and to your psyche. So I would say that she has said it, that she was a very broken woman at that point in her life. She admits that. And she said she would even cry in her car before she would walk into the club to dance. Listen, I know this is something that has become very commonplace now in society. And so we've become very, very desensitized. But for a woman to put herself in that position over and over and over and over and over in front of strange men, that is a violation. And even if you can live in denial, and you can sort of kind of cope with it, there's something there's damage that's being done to you, okay, as a person, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, okay? And women like Sabrina don't really usually know until long after they have come out of it. So we've got two women. We've got a girlfriend who's given this man her whole heart, who has said she is fed up with this woman who just won't go away. And we have the man admitting that he should have left her alone, that he just would not, that he was supposed to. And so, the situation just became very, very, it was already wrong, but it became more and more inflammatory and more volatile, okay? So we've got two women who are dealing with a very, very, very broken man, a very selfish man. He admitted that as well. And these two women are becoming more and more emotionally and mentally and psychologically damaged and more broken. Okay, so what is the good that came out of this story? The good that came out of the story is, I believe that Sabrina is the type of woman, and I use that term loosely. Nobody's really a type, okay? I use that to convey a particular sentiment, okay? Because that's something that most of us understand what that means, even though everybody's an individual, okay? I believe that there are a lot of women who will listen to Sabrina. Sabrina mentions, because Sabrina turned her life around, and she gave her heart and her life to God after all of that. After that solution was thrown in her face, and she almost died. She was in a coma. Her kids were by her side and believing, or at least fearing, what the doctors said, that she was close to death, they actually said at one point that she was going to die, and she survived it, okay? So at some point she decided to give her life to God. She went through a lot of surgeries. Her life was very, very difficult, and it was indeed tumultuous before having the acid thrown in her face, and before she went blind as a result of that. But after that, what she had to go through, her road to healing and recovery was probably equally as difficult, if not more so. And it drove Sabrina to her knees. She was at her breaking point. She turned her life around because she learned to trust in God, okay? And so she became a better woman. She became a stronger woman. What am I trying to say? Is that I think there's a lot of women that will, when they hear Sabrina's story, especially when she's telling it herself, or when they watch her videos of her testimony, it will resonate for them, okay? There are a lot of women who, and this is no shame, there is no condemnation. You are a beautiful soul no matter what you are doing, because God created you, whether the world thinks so or not. God sees you. The eyes that God sees you through, you are his daughter, and he loves you no matter what you're doing. I think there are a lot of women who are not happy with their lives, and perhaps have chosen the same path that Sabrina had chosen, okay? And by listening to her story and her testimony, everything that she went through, how her children loved her through it, and how it drew her closer to God, closer to her family, her sons. She grew to really, really appreciate her children rather than, once upon a time that she was that woman who she said she walked out the door to go chasing this man who didn't care about her. And she looked at her daughter. She looked behind her. Her daughter was standing at the door. Okay? And yet she took off to chase a man who didn't care about her. And look what was awaiting her. Look at what was awaiting her. So and her life turned around and changed in every way. She got closer to her kids. She has a son who plays in the NFL, and he is exceptional by all accounts of professionals in the league who were interviewed. And he said that he was inspired by his mother, and just watching her go through everything that she went through. It inspired him, and it somehow made him push to be great and to overcome. I think just, to paraphrase his mother, watching his mother showed him that he could absolutely be unstoppable and do anything, and really just do anything. And so I just really think there was such an anointing, honestly, over this entire family, and that they returned to, and at some point, God won. God won with them. So it is unfortunate that she went blind, but the irony is that once she went blind, her eyes got opened. Her eyes got open to the blessings in her life. She said she became more compassionate, and this is what was one of the most amazing things about this story to me, was that Sabrina said that people said to her family and friends had said to her, that you should go and appeal the decision for her to be set free, because Savannah went to jail for 20 years, okay? And Sabrina said, I had to put myself in that woman's shoes. I don't know what she must have been going through. But literally, the man that they were dealing with was physically abusive. He was abusive in every way, shape, and form, okay? Savannah does share some of that in her interview with Tasha K. Check it out. I'm going to have all the links below. But Sabrina said that at some point she just put herself in Savannah's shoes, and she realized that she also was very, very broken. Look, both of them had really just been played, horribly played. The consequences were unimaginable. For one woman to go to jail for 20 years, and then another woman to lose her vision, but gain vision on a whole other amazing, phenomenal level. God works in mysterious ways. That's all I can say. So she put herself in Savannah's shoes, and she said she forgave her. She said she forgave her. Mind you, this is the same woman who, when Savannah was sentenced to prison, she's in the courtroom. Sabrina looked at the man in the middle of all of this, and said to him, "You ain't never gonna see that bitch again." Okay, that's what he said. He said that's what she said. And I do believe, based on everything that I've heard from everybody's different sides of the story, I do believe that she was that woman. But it's just beautiful how she isn't anymore. And she's able to appreciate her life and be grateful for her life, despite the fact that she is not able to see anymore. She no longer has physical vision, but her vision is better than ever. Savannah says she left when she went into prison. She left her son, who was 2 years old, and when she came out, that 2-year-old had become a man. So nobody really, the devastation was great. It was great. It was great. What it did to those kids. Sabrina's daughter said that she was angry. She admitted to her mother one day she was angry. She was very angry over what happened to her mother. So nobody, listen, when women, and when you decide to get involved in a relationship with somebody, please make sure that you spend a lot of time in relationship with yourself first and with God, so that unlike Sabrina and Savannah 20 years ago, who did not have to go through that, but unlike who they were 20 some odd years ago, you don't end up, you don't have to. You don't have to walk into a situation, and even I did. Listen, I shared my testimony hundreds of times probably by this point. Check me out on TikTok, by the way. It's a lot of nuggets of my testimony over there. But they didn't have to. All of that happened because everybody was so broken. They didn't know who they were. A woman who loves and values herself, which you will if your relationship with you, if you allow that to grow, you just become such a mature and beautiful woman on the inside once you really value yourself and you have healthy boundaries and you make healthy choices and you don't choose someone for the wrong reasons. See, your perspective is all wrong when you've got stuff in here that hasn't been dealt with. And so, listen, I highly, highly, highly recommend that women not even get into serious relationships until they're like 30, although clearly there's nothing I can really do about that. Obviously, women will get into relationships at 18, 19, 20, even as early as 16 years old. And a lot of us are just going to learn the hard way. I just pray that as few women as possible have to learn as harshly as Sabrina and Savannah have had to learn. Listen, they're both doing well now. They're both looking beautiful now. And also, the guy who was the selfish, womanizer and abusive and everything, he speaks with humility now, admitting his wrongdoings. And so, I really just see the grace of God that everybody is fine and still living beautiful, blessed lives. Honestly, and everybody's looking good too. Somehow it all turned out. Okay. More than okay. Ladies, please be careful. Please be so careful who you get involved with. Please be careful, and please take your time, and then take some more time, and then take some more time. And when you are dating, I know it can be hard, but please learn to value yourself by spending a lot of time just being you and getting to know who you are and what you like and what you want and what your goals are, and pursuing your goals and becoming stronger, better, and wiser, so that by the time you actually really, really give your whole self to somebody, because it's possible, by the time you get to that point, then you have chosen from a totally different perspective and not from a very broken place. Guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope, I have to say that there was something very healing about listening to Sabrina. Check her out, okay? Open your heart, open your mind, and just listen, and just listen, because we can all learn valuable lessons from each other, and don't necessarily have to learn everything the hard way. Bye, guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Remember, your most beautiful self and your most beautiful life is within your power, is within your grasp. Go get it. It's already yours, boo-boo, and that's why you see it for yourself. Love you all so much. Bye.